So when I went to Orange County Marathon, first thing that I was thinking is like, okay, I want to Boston qualify.
What's up, guys? My name is Rob, and this is Rob on the Run podcast, a running podcast for all healthy lifestyles. And today we have a great guest. His name is Paul. Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you today, Rob?
I'm doing great as well, man. Thank you for asking. And Paul, how's running? I see your medals. Let's start with that. I see all those medals, and I'm pretty sure they're more than mine. How long have you been running? How long have you been racing?
Yep. So basically, 2020, basically the start of COVID. Actually, right before that, I started at the end of 2019, like December-ish 2019.
Wow.
Of course, right when I got excited about running, COVID happened. And then, for the first probably 7 or 8 months, it was virtual. So
yeah,
I ended up going with that virtual way, even though basically you're paying $40-$50 for a medal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It inspired me to do it because that was the extra motivation. It's like, I'm not going to waste this money. So I started in 2020. Then continued the journey. First started off with 5Ks, 10Ks and halves. And then at the end of the 2020 was my first marathon.
Wow. And looking at the plethora of medals that you got, I'm super jealous because if you did not say you started in 2020, man, I'm not going to lie. I would have thought that you've been running for 10 years, because I don't know if do you know how many medals you have? Do you have an exact count?
On the wall behind me, and actually it goes down to the floor, so you really can't see, but it's all the way to the top. It's about 8 feet wide. Mm-hmm. There are 300 peg hooks on that. Okay. So I know there's 300 on there. However, I ran out of space on there, so I've been putting more than one on them. And then I've got about 22 right there and kind of in the corner over there.
Oh my God. Yeah, you've definitely been running a lot since 2020 because yes. I've been running since 2018, and mine are only if you look at on this side, on what would be my left side, those are mine, and the bottom ones are mine. The top right side are my fiance, so I can't really take credit for those. So yeah, you've definitely been running a lot. And what got you into running? What was the motivator? Was it COVID basically?
Actually, no, believe it or not, it just kind of coincided with that. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, I used to run, but I was never consistent. It's like when I was younger, like in my 20s, which I'm now 47, I would go run and I'd feel great. And I'd do that for maybe a few weeks. Then I'd lose motivation. And, that would be kind of a continuous trend. Well, the end of 2019, not to get kind of on a sad story, but my parents' health kept on declining. And so November, actually Thanksgiving Eve, when my brother Mike from Midland, West Texas, drove my parents here for Thanksgiving, my mom had a stroke while I was working. Wow. And so she'd had a stroke before. My dad had Parkinson's. He had a pacemaker. They're both diabetic. So there's a lot of health conditions. So in 2019 and end of November, Thanksgiving, when that happened, we ended up, my brother and I have a house together, and we moved my parents in with my brother and I here in Austin. So seeing their health decline and seeing like the heart conditions, keep in mind, I know some of that is hereditary. So some of that cannot be prevented. But considering seeing that happen, it just inspired me. It's like, I kind of saw myself in the future, and I was like, what can I do now that maybe will prevent some of that later on in my life? And so not only did I see that it was good for physical, but also the mental, being my brother and I and my sister being caretakers for my parents. You love your parents more than anything in the world. Of course. But you needed a release. And to top it off, at that point in time, I was a general manager at Best Buy. I worked there for 25 years. Oh, wow. And so I was putting in, 60 hours, 70 hours a week at that time, and then coming home to full-time caregiving. So, I needed a release. And so I found not only from a running standpoint was great physical, but it's also therapeutic mentally.
Oh yeah.
That it was just a good reset. And started off slow with just like, a mile and a half every other day. And and then I started just increasing it, and then started doing like a mile or two every day.
Yeah.
And then I started, once the races started up, I got to where, okay, races on the weekends, a couple miles during the week helped great. And then once COVID was kind of done with races, started pushing myself. So it's like, there's not as many races here in Austin, but San Antonio, there's races every Saturday, every Sunday. It's just you got to pick which one you want to do.
Yeah.
Just like I'm sure Houston is the same way too.
Yeah. They have a lot of races. It's kind of similar to San Antonio. Yeah,
right.
It usually is, especially in the summer. I've noticed that they got the a lot of like 5Ks and stuff like short distances, but I guess to motivate people, like you said, to just stay healthy or stay active, even in the summer heat here in Texas, which is pretty bad, man. But yeah, continue. How after that?
Yeah, so basically after that, I got the bug to run more. It was just like, I've never done drugs, but it's, to me, I would picture it's kind of like that. You get addicted to it, and just want to do more and more and more. Yeah. So with that, I was doing more races, and I was doing some half marathons. And my goal in 2020 was I wanted to do my first full marathon before my mom passed. And so my goal was, and like I mentioned, end of 2019 was when I very first started running. Yeah. So my goal was my first marathon without any real training was going to be December of 2020. Okay. And what was special about that is it was in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
That was very special. And so Hawaii was one of the places my parents took me as a child when I was like 6 years old. It was my first real true vacation. It was somewhere special. And, so that was special to me with that from a parent standpoint. Yeah. And, I wanted to kind of prove to my mom that I could do it, awesome. And what was also cool is during that time, it was December 13th, 2020, which actually was the same day as my 25-year Best Buy anniversary work date. So, so it had some specialties there. Of course, COVID did happen, so it did get canceled. Yeah. I already had my flight tickets. I already had my hotel, everything. So I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. So even though it's going to be virtual, it's like, I'm going to do it. So I've been to Hawaii a lot of times. The one thing I didn't take in consideration is I've never been in December before. Yeah. So me thinking December was going to be a little bit cooler. It wasn't. So we can talk a little bit more about that later, because I think I might tie into some of our conversations later. But I finished it, which I was happy to do. Yeah. But I ended up having to walk a lot, and got a little dehydrated. And so that I determined that was it. That was the last marathon I was going to do. Yeah. And then I decided in 2021, it's like, you know what? It's payback time. I'm going to see from what I did in 2020 to 2021 and see what's going to happen. 2020 was unfortunately very slow with like a 5:09 marathon. And then in 2021, I ended up doing 3 hours and 46 minutes.
Wow. So from 5:09 to, what was it again? 3 hours and
46 minutes. Yeah.
Wow. That's
really
that's a big gap.
No training really. It's just consistency of running. Wow. So I did that. And then after that, 2021, I made a good friend that she'd done a lot more marathons than me. And I was kind of done. I was like, okay, I did one in Hawaii. Then I did a second one. I proved to myself that I could improve. And I officially did an in-person marathon.
That's awesome.
No virtual. And one of my good friends, she goes, Paul, you could do Boston. And I was like, whatever, you're crazy. I cannot. And she's like, yes, you can. I was like, no, I can't. And, she, like, my parents inspired me to get into running. Yeah. She inspired me to be better and inspired me more on a marathon standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
So December 2021, I did that one. I decided in 2022, she got in my headspace that I could do it and gave me the confidence.
Yeah.
And so in March of 2022, I decided I was going to run the Alamo in San Antonio.
Oh, wow.
It was last minute. So I had that. And then I also had a really cool marathon, Orange County, Newport, in California.
Yeah.
So I had that one scheduled. What was cool about that one is this is every typical runner. I guarantee you, whenever you go on vacation or you have some special meeting, you're looking for races.
Oh yeah,
you're looking for races.
1,000%, 1,000%. Not only races, but sometimes when you don't find races, I'll look for good places to create routes to go run.
Yes.
So yes, that's one thing that I do, and I'm pretty sure we can speak for all runners. That's the first thing we do as runners. Like my fiance loves to go to the beach. Gotta find a race, and she wants to go to, she went to Utah, right? And the first thing I said, I need to run a race in Utah because I'm trying to do the whole 50 state thing. So of course, I always tell my fiance, wherever you want to go, just tell me in advance when you want to go, give me the dates. And she automatically tells me already, oh, you want to find a race, don't you? I'm like, yep. So I agree with you. It's 100% something that runners, it's just in our DNA. Wherever we go, it becomes from a vacation to a running vacation. You know what I mean? So yeah, for sure. 100%, man.
Yes.
But
So
go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So the one in March, I did not originally have scheduled. I had the one in May scheduled. And that was my niece was graduating at Pepperdine. And so originally I was like, I'm going to see if I can find a 5K or a 10K because I'm just there for the weekend.
Yeah.
And then I looked and found the Orange County Marathon. I was like, oh, sweet. So I was like, maybe that's where I can get my BQ time at possibly.
Okay.
When Run the Alamo came up, I actually was running the half. And I was talking to one of my friends and he's like, well, actually, I'm signed up for the full, but I will trade you. I was like, sweet, let's get the registration done and get it switched. So we did that. And in March of 2022, I ran it. Not really a lot of training, but just, consistency of running. Unfortunately, in March 2022 was one of the years where it was very, very, very hot.
I remember.
By mile 23. I started feeling heat, like some heat exhaustion, some dehydration. And I still PR'd on that one by 5 minutes from Hawaii in 2021. But right when I crossed the finish line, I felt myself kind of cramping up. And one of my buddies, Eli, he came in to run with me. He caught me at the last 3 miles of the marathon. He was injured with an ankle injury. So he's like, I won't run fast. And I was like, well, don't worry. I'm going to be walking most of this 5K left. So once I got across the finish line, I started cramping up and I went over to the medic tent and I'm like, hey, I'm not feeling so good. And they're like, sit down. And then next thing you know, they're calling an ambulance and they're you're dehydrated. Like your blood pressure is 60/40. We're taking you in. I was like, just give me some water. Give me some water. I'll be fine. They're like, no, we're taking you in. So, of course, runners, we're always concerned about certain things. So, one of the friend that inspired me on marathon running, she was there. So first thing I do is like, hey, take my bib so you can get my finisher jacket. It's like, oh, here, hold my medal for me too.
But wait, did you stop your watch? That's.
Oh, I had stopped it already. I stopped it. I'd already stopped it, and I was kind of walking a little bit. And I was already past the finish line and cramped up. So I made the finish line, stopped my watch, so I had my 5-minute PR.
Okay, yeah.
And then straight to the ER.
There's this meme that I saw not so long ago where this guy got ran over. A car hit him, right? And he's like laying there, and the medics are looking at him, and he's like, did you stop my watch? And he's like, what do you mean stop your watch? He's like, well, because I need to make sure that I get my time. and they look at him like you must be crazy, dude. You're over here, could have died or whatnot, and all you care is about your watch. So yeah, that's another thing. I strongly believe that runners, no matter what happens, they need to make sure that run counts.
Yes.
So it's kind of like nowadays in social media, if you're not friends on Facebook, then you're not really friends, if it's not on Strava, it doesn't count, it does not count. So yeah, it's crazy, man. And what happened? Did you PR? I know you said you PR'd.
Yes,
Did you qualify for Boston there?
Not there.
Okay.
And so it was basically 5 weeks later, it was an Orange County Marathon. And so from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint, I was kind of defeated. Thankfully enough, they gave me 2 liters of saline. Ironically enough, I was about in the hospital for about as long as I ran. It was like 3 hours and 40 minutes, somewhere around that. And of course, runners were stubborn. So the first thing they asked me, they're like, "Do you have a ride?" I'm like, "Yes." The thing I didn't tell them is, no, my ride was at the finish line, which actually was just like a mile and a half away. So
oh my God.
After I just got through with that, I'm like, yes. I'm like, "Do you have a shirt that I can borrow?" And they're like, "Let me see what we have," because the shirt I had was just drenched in sweat. Yeah. And they're like, "Yeah." So it's like hot, and they have like some kind of throwaway shirts. It's like a sweat shirt. And I'm just like,
oh my God.
But I took it. And when I told them my shirt was sweat, they're like, "Oh, I thought that was just water on your shirt." I was like, "No, that was sweat." So I went back to my car, and then everything was good. But as I was looking at going to the Orange County Marathon, I was excited, but I was super nervous because, I wasn't educated on, proper hydration and everything. So I was like, what if this happens to me again? What if? And so I was really, I guess, really more in my head than physical. So when I went to the Orange County Marathon, first thing that I was thinking is like, okay, I want to Boston qualify. Boston qualify time for my age is 3 hours and 20 minutes. So keep in mind, prior to this, my fastest time was 3:41. 3:41. So we're looking, at to being able to qualify 21 minutes better. In a month's time. So so I was a little nervous, but when I got there, weather conditions were right. What's cool is they had pacers there. So I learned so much from the pacers, and inspired me to now I'm a pacer a lot of times. So nice. But I ended up pacing with the 320 group, and and they were giving a lot of different advice, a lot of different tips, and just checking on everybody regularly. And so with that, we were running a little bit faster. And so they told us, "Hey, this year you got to run a little faster. Otherwise 320 is not going to cut it." Yeah. You got to have a buffer. Yeah. Yeah. So we had that buffer. Well, close to the end, we were looking really good. And so pacers, have to finish within a minute's time. So they slowed down, and I was slowing down too. And the pacer was like, "Why are you slowing down?" I said, "Well, you're going to finish 320, right?" He's like, "Yeah, but you need a buffer. You need to go." I said, "No, I'll wait for you. Come on, let's go. Let's run this together." He's like, "No, go. So I ran, and in Orange County in May of 2022, I finished that marathon at 3 hours and 15 minutes. Wow. So at this point, you've ran 3 marathons, if I'm not mistaken, right? From when you started. 1, 2, 3. Orange County would have been my 4th official, 3rd in person. Right? Third, 1 virtual, and then 3 actual chip time per se. Correct. Wow, yes. Man. And if you look at the times, of course, the virtual, you can slack off a little bit because it's not an official race. But even at the 3 races, you did one at 3:40, 3:45, 3:41, and then 3:15. Wow. And out of those 3 races, what I deciphered here, there was not an actual training plan. You just ran consistently. Yes. So when you say consistently, what was like a typical week for you? What would you do? Sure. During these 3 runs, or leading up, I guess, to the Boston qualifying time? What was
how did you look? How did your week look in your running?
Yes. And, and one thing I'm big on, and everybody actually makes fun of me because of my training rhythm, but everybody's different, everybody's rhythm looks different. Some things work for some people, some things don't work for others.
Yeah.
But everybody laughs because when they hear me Boston qualifying, they're like, what do you do? When are your long runs? Ironically enough, I don't do long runs.
Oh, wow.
So my philosophy, and everybody laughs at it, but it's a 5K a day. 5K a day.
Wow.
So my motto is 5K a day keeps the doctor away. Well, 5K a day also keeps you Boston qualifying too. So
it is weird, not weird, but it is kind of unorthodox because at least for what my coach has trained me, you have to run these long distances to get your legs used to it. But at the same time, I can see how that can still help you with the 5Ks, because if you're running consistently every day, 5Ks, your legs are getting used to that turnaround, that turnaround that you're just consistently running every day. And, on race day, it's just like a typical day practically, for you. But I don't think I've ever heard someone say that's the way they train. Hey man, if it works for you, it works for you. Like you said, everyone's different. Everyone trains in a different way. I know for a fact I probably wouldn't be able to do that, but man, I'm just shocked. I'll be honest. I'm super shocked to hear that in 3 races, and with very not the conventional way of training, let's say, you've been able to go from a 5-hour marathon, and we'll count that virtual one, from a 5-hour marathon to 3:15. That's just amazing. It amazes me. It tells me that you're built to be an athlete somewhere or another. Did you do any type of like sports when you were younger, or running was basically the first sport you ever got into?
So it's funny you say that, because actually I didn't do any other sports. Actually, when I was a kid, in 7th grade, I had a rare muscle disease.
Oh, wow.
And it was kind of like lupus, but it didn't last forever. And it was a muscle disease, but also a skin disease called dermatomyositis.
Wow.
And so it I would just fall all the time. So like if I was taking a bath, I could barely get up to get out of the bath. I could just be walking and just fall. So being in junior high, that was like the worst time.
Oh my God.
It's like I'd be walking and then not walking to class, or just walking up like on lunch break, and then all of a sudden just wipe out. And of course, everybody's laughing and everything. It's like,
such a
I can't help it. Yeah.
Tough time to have that, man.
Yeah.
Kids are not that easy,
No. So so it's kind of ironic, because it's like I wasn't in sports, and actually back then I was very weak and broken down. And so as I got older and got my confidence built up, I kind of ran here and there, but I was never in sports. Actually, in high school, I was kind of behind the scenes with sports. I was in journalism. And so I was interviewing people for the newspaper or yearbook, or a photographer for the newspaper or yearbook. So I was involved with sports that way, but never in the sports.
Wow. If you would have asked somebody else with those times, they probably would have thought, man, this guy is a Division 3 or Division D or whatever they call it, or something like that. Because, I mean, I was always in the impression when someone, I have friends. I have a couple friends that, like, I have a friend that literally ran his first marathon, right? Had never ran before, but he was an athlete. And he ran his first marathon like in 3 hours and 18 minutes. But you think about it, he's like, nah, it's understandable. He's an athlete. He's been conditioned. He's got it. It's not like he just picked it up for the first time and decided to run a marathon and finish it in 3:18. But when I hear what you just did, or you're explaining to me, that's what I thought. I really thought that you probably had like a track and field or something like that background. But that just makes it more interesting that, with everything you had to go through when you were a kid, and then on your 3rd marathon, hitting those times. It's crazy. And I'm going to go ahead and take a guess that you ran it in March, you said, right? The qualifying.
Oh, so actually in May.
Yeah. Sorry. So in May, that was for so you qualified for Boston of the next year.
Correct.
Right. And between May and Boston, did you run another marathon or what happened?
Yes, I did. So I was like, I'm good. I don't have to do any marathons till Boston.
Yeah.
That was my mentality.
Mm-hmm.
One of my other running buddies, she's ran Boston 6 times. So when I, 4 times at that point. So she was like, when I told her to qualify for Boston, she's like, I've done it 4 times. I'm done with it. I'm like, whatever. well then like, this was May when I qualified.
Yeah.
And like in, I want to say July, but I'm thinking in reality, it was August.
Okay.
August, she reaches out to me. It's like, hey, Paul, let's go do a marathon together. And I was like, no, I'm good. She goes, well, I decided I want to Boston qualify again. Will you go with me? I'm like, no. She goes, come on. And she's like, give me like a week and a half's notice.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, it'll be fun. And it was in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay.
And so she goes, okay, let's go. I was like, no. And finally she's like, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll book it all. And then you just Venmo me the amount and we'll go. And I was like, fine, peer pressure. So we flew out on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Had our little layover in Detroit and then flew over to Grand Rapids.
Okay.
Picked up her packet, ate, slept for a little bit, woke up early Sunday, ran the marathon, flew back Sunday night.
Wow.
She got her Boston qualifying time, so she was ecstatic.
Yeah.
I shaved off another 2 minutes, so I went from a 3:15 to a 3:13.
Wow. I'm starting to see a trend here, and I'm pretty sure it's going to continue. So peer pressure has gotten you into a lot of these marathons.
Yes, a lot.
Because even for the qualifying, someone had got into your head, and obviously that got you into racing Alamo, which was also short notice. So I'm starting to see a trend here. Now I understand why you don't train, because you're just getting into these marathons without any time appropriate time frame to train, man.
Yes.
So after Grand Rapids, let me guess, you ran another marathon.
That is correct. So finished 3:13 there.
Yeah.
So the next one was kind of, it wasn't anybody saying, hey, go do a marathon. It just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah.
In 2021, I was with Best Buy, and I am no longer with them. I'll leave it at that. But things are great. Living life and having a great time of life now.
Awesome.
But in October of 2022, my niece decided that she wanted to go see the Northern Lights on her birthday.
Okay.
She went to Alaska in 2021 on her birthday, didn't see them. So in 2022, she decided she was going to see them in Iceland.
Oh, wow.
And so she's like, Paul, go with me to Iceland. You got the time. Come to Iceland. I'm like, no. I was like, I'll think about it. So, of course, first thing I do is, let me see if there's any marathons in Iceland.
Of course.
I'm like, what? There's a marathon 6 days before she's going? I was like, oh, man. Okay. I'm like, okay, Amber, it's on. Okay, I'm booking right now. So she's like, well, what do you want to do when we get there? I was like, I'll tell you what, I'm going to already be doing my own thing 6 days prior. So you can book whatever you want to do, and we'll do whatever you want to do. It's like, you sure? I was like, yes. So I got there. First off, got a hostel, which actually the hostel wasn't as nice as I thought it was going to be. So last minute change. I ended up booking an expensive hotel for the first 2 nights, which was great. Yeah. Because with the time change and everything, I was pretty much running the marathon within less than 24 hours of getting there. So, with the time change. So I was like, that I did not think clearly through. So that one was really cool. It was cold. It stayed 32 the whole time.
Oh, that's awesome.
So at the time, my earlier days of marathons, it seemed super cold, but it was really cool. It was in a park, so when you're in Iceland, you expect Iceland. Where I ran, it was still very pretty, but it wasn't like Iceland.
But
ended up running that, And then next thing you know, I shaved off another 2 minutes and finished that one at 3:11.
So you're just improving your Boston
Yes.
qualifying times, huh?
Yes.
Wow. And again, in short notice, very little sleep for what I can tell. Wow. And this was in 2021, you said. So that's still
that was 2022.
2022. Yeah. And then let's get to Boston. So did you actually train for Boston, or 5K a day makes the doctor away and keeps the marathons alive?
Yes. So then after October, you know, I was like, shoot, let's just carry on the tradition. Honolulu Marathon again.
Okay.
2022 was the 50th anniversary. I was like, well, I gotta do that. So that was the first marathon out of the first 5 or 6 that I did not PR. Like every single marathon was PR.
Yeah.
This one was not, but it was a PR from the year before. So the year before I had done 3:46.
Yeah.
And in 2022, I did 3:13.
Wow.
So, and go forward a little bit. Peer pressure on this one, but this was I noticed like probably about 4 months ahead of time.
Okay, that's a little bit better.
A little better. The friend that inspired me to running marathons.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Paul, you got to improve your time. Get it, run Houston.
Oh, of
course, I was like, okay. And, I had a lot of friends running there. So, okay, I'll do it. So, so in 2023, ran Houston and PR'd by 4 minutes and finished that one at 3:07.
And if I'm not mistaken, that was a year that it was pretty warm.
Yes.
Because I ran that one. Yes. It was warmer than usual. Yeah. Wow. And one thing I've noticed, and you can correct me, we're gonna step away from the marathons for a little bit, because I wanted to talk about.
We'll run out of time.
No, we got time still. It's just because I was looking at your feed, and one thing that I've noticed, you run in the heat. Do you enjoy running in the heat? Is it easy for you to run in the heat?
I just believe it's good on training, helps for endurance.
Yes.
So one thing is I'm a day trader. So like now that I'm not with Best Buy, I do investing. So
okay.
I'm kind of spoiled to where I get to sleep in a little bit.
Nice.
So I'll sleep in a little bit, but I do love running in the heat of the day, just for endurance and strengthening. So, so this last year and a half, one thing I didn't mention is, I was big on the 5K days, but for about a year and a half, and unfortunately I've been slacking from them, but joined a run group. Actually, the shirt I'm wearing, Atreyu. They're a local running shoe company. Yeah. And so they do Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I would go running with them. And, usually it's 5 miles, 7 miles, 10 miles. So usually on Mondays, I would run 5 miles, Wednesdays, 5 miles, Fridays, 5 miles. And so I was doing that religiously from, I would say probably April or May of 2022. So I have to step back a little bit on the 5K. But on those days, I would run a little bit further distance, not much more, but also at a slower pace. So I was doing that, and for that time frame, about a year and a half. This past summer, I was out of state volunteering at Denali National Park. So I kind of got away from group runs, and then when I got back, I realized how hard it was to get back up at like 5 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. And so since I've been back since last September, I think I've only ran with him like 8 or 9 times. So.
Oh wow! But it amazes me to see, because I mean, when you post your stories and stuff like that, you're running, I'm guessing, midday.
Yes.
And it's the hottest time of the day, basically, between I feel like midday to 3 o'clock. Those are the peak times. I mean, the sun's been hitting the pavement all day. Yeah. So if you go run around that time, you're definitely gonna be running in the heat. But I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. If you are a warm temperature runner, fall races are just going to be easy for you, you know? And I'm pretty sure that kind of explains why you did so good in Houston in 2023, because it was warm and humid, and I was dying. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was literally dying while I was running. But my ego and my takes I have too much pride, actually, I should say. And I finished that race regardless, because that's another thing about runners. You know, we don't give up. And no matter if you're dragging your leg, you're still gonna finish that race, you know. So but I did notice that with you, that you are a very active heat runner. And that really reminds me of a good friend of mine. I have a good friend of mine. Her name's Crystal. And because of her job, she's kind of like a real estate agent. So sometimes the only time she has is in her lunchtime. And she will run Town Lake at 12 midday every day, no matter if it's summer, if it's winter, fall, whatever. But in the summertime, of course, you're talking about Austin weather being at 100 degrees sometimes, you know, but that really made her such a great runner that she actually qualified for Boston as well for next year.
That's awesome.
And it's something that has been so hard for me, because I'm so used to, I'm a 5:30 morning runner. Everybody knows that if I'm training for something, I'll run in the morning. But this year and the last year that I trained, I decided, you know what? Out of the 4 or 5 times I run in the week, at least one day I got to run in the afternoon, you know, because I got to at least little by little, you know, get acclimated. I mean, I live in Texas. It is what it is, I guess, you know. And I've seen my pace get better. I've seen my stamina get better, and my resistance on, you know, in the heat is getting better, you know. So yeah, but I don't think I can. I'm at the point where I can run every day like you. So that's amazing that you do that, man. And I wanted to bring that up because it's not an easy thing to do, you know. It's not an easy thing to do, and to see you doing it, and I always see you with a smile to begin with when you're running, and I'm like, man, this guy's probably just smiling while he's recording himself or something.
I am. But my Instagram, smile while you run.
Exactly. But yeah, man. So let's get back to the marathon training, or the so-called marathon training over here. So you ran in Michigan. This was how far along from the Boston Marathon?
Let's see. We were still 7 months out from Michigan.
Okay.
And then we went fast forward to Iceland in October.
Iceland.
So about actually that was 8 months Michigan, and then about 6 months Iceland. And then Honolulu, we were about 4 months out.
4 months.
And then Houston in 2023, 3 months out.
3 months.
And then I won a free race entry to the Austin Marathon. So I was like, why not? Have fun with it.
Yeah.
That one I had a little bit of setback, just a tiny bit, but nothing too bad. I made the simple rookie mistake of running the first half too fast. And the first half, I had PR'd the first half, and I was like, I wasn't expecting this, you know, less than a month, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks out of Houston. I was like, man, I might break 3:05. I was like, wow. And I was like, looking at my time, like, man, I'm doing great. And all of a sudden, mile 18, evidently, I didn't have enough electrolytes. I didn't have enough hydration, which I thought I had. Both hamstrings cramped up.
Oh my God.
And so I ended up walking a lot from mile 18 to from mile 18 till the end. And so looking at 3:05, I still finished good. I still, with both hamstrings cramped up, had to walk a lot. I finished up at 3:18 on that one.
Oh, wow. That's great time, man. That's great time.
Fast forward to that. The next weekend, I was running the Las Vegas half marathon. Okay. Which was a lot of fun. The rock and roll one. Did that. And then fast forward a couple weeks later.
Wait, that was 2023? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, the only reason why I'm asking is because 2022, I ran the half. I think, the half. And I proposed to my fiance that day, so I was like, "Oh, that would have been cool if you were there."
That would have been cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Congratulations.
No, thank you. And 2023, you ran it. That was is it in February now?
February,
yeah,
correct.
February. Okay.
Yeah. So it was a week after Austin Marathon. And then one of my buddies, peer pressure again, once again, says, "Hey, Paul, you would make a great pacer." And I was like, "I don't know." And he'd been asking me this for months.
Yeah.
Finally, he's like, "Hey, I can get you in. You can pace for Run the Alamo." And keep in mind, still it's up here in the head that the last Run the Alamo I did was when I went to the hospital. So I'm like, I don't know. He's like, "Well, this is your vengeance. It's like you can do this." So so he got me into it, and I paced 3:45. Which, they want you to pace about like 20 minutes slower, 20 30 slower than what you normally run. So I did that in March, still a month out from Boston. And then biggest peer pressure of them all, one of my friends that actually I befriended her at a Honolulu marathon prior, and she's like, "Hey, Paul, there's a ultra 50K in Moab, Utah."
Oh my God.
She goes, let's go do it together. I'm like, "Look, I just did Houston. I just did Austin. I did 2 different halves. I did San Antonio. Boston's in a month." No, she goes, "Oh, come on, it'll be fun." And she's half my age. I was 46 at the time, 45 at the time. She was like 23, half my age. She was, "Oh, if I can do it, you can do it."
Oh my God.
She talked me into it. So in the same month of March that I did my Run the Alamo, I did my first 50K. It was like 3 weeks apart. And then after my 50K, 3 weeks later, here we come, Boston.
Oh my God. You know what? Keep my number, man, because I feel like you're going to have to need someone to say no to these invitations, man.
Yes.
I mean, you said a month, the 50K a month before Boston.
Yes.
Like I can think about so many times in this timeline that you've given me of how many times you could have injured yourself in this. And I'm glad you didn't. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to jinx you here, but I mean, it's every time you run, these races, anything can happen,
Definitely.
It's crazy. I'm almost tempted, and I don't know if I should say this because I don't want you to get peer pressured, but maybe you should just do like a challenge where you run like a marathon, like a marathon every week or a marathon every month or something like that, because it seems like you've been doing that already, to be honest.
Pretty close. That's my goal, once a month.
Wow. So do you find races or are you just running a marathon like even on your own or something like that?
I always find races, and so last year my goal was, let's do one a month. So January, February, March, April were great. Unfortunately, May last year, some stuff happened with one of my brothers. So I was focused on that specifically and skipped that. Then last summer when I was in Alaska, of course, hey, I'm looking there, and I'm there in Denali National Park, and sure enough, in Anchorage, Alaska, in June, there's a marathon. So I did that one, and then July and August. July I couldn't find anything, because I didn't have my car there, so it's getting a train or a bus was sometimes kind of challenging. But then in August, there was a marathon there, and it was for the pace group I paced for and Run the Alamo. They were pacing Anchorage Run Fest. The only downside was that they did they were already full for full marathons. So I ended up just doing a half marathon, but that weekend they actually had a half marathon at the national park on Saturday.
Oh wow.
So I ran that and then drove to Anchorage and ran the half on the next day. I paced the half there. So, and then came back. So when that was done, we're talking about heat acclimation. So earlier, so kind of figured to tie back in. So in September, right when my stint was over with the volunteer at Denali National Park, I was like kind of in a celebration of my mom, because my mom had passed in September 2020. So she didn't get to see me after I ran my first marathon.
Yeah.
But, I know she was there in spirit.
Of course.
So when I was done with Denali volunteering, the last true vacation we went on, one last true vacation we went on with my parents was Kauai and Hawaii, the Kauai Island. And so I happened to look, and right when I was done with my stint in Alaska, September 3rd, 2023, Kauai had their marathon.
Oh, wow.
And what was really cool is my mom's birthday would have been September 4th.
Oh, wow.
So instead of flying back home to Texas, and where it was like 40s in Alaska the whole time,
that's nice.
Flew to Hawaii. I flew about 4 or 5 days prior to get heat acclimated. Yeah. And so, my Garmin was saying 0% heat acclimation. So when I get there, once again, I just deliberately ran in the afternoon, 2 or 3 o'clock, deliberately just to get heat acclimated. Yeah. And I believe that if I hadn't done that, I might have not finished because it was there, like Honolulu Marathon. They know it's going to be hot, so they start at like 5:30 in the morning. Kauai starts at like 7:30. So it's already getting warm and it gets super hot. So I believe that truly helped me, like running in the middle of the day to get prepared for that. So so I did that in September. And then, what did I do October of last year? Oh, yeah. Then September, I also paced one in Ohio for Air Force Marathon. Okay. So that was a lot of fun. And then I did 2 in September. And then October, I really couldn't find any. So I reached out to another pacing team and did the Boulderthon in Colorado.
Oh, I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a hot one too. That day we got started about 45 minutes late. And it was warmer there than what it was here in Austin.
Oh, wow. So, in Colorado, that's crazy. That's crazy.
And then, after that, the next one I found was in New Hampshire, and I paced that one. Whereas that one was an extreme opposite. At the start, it was 26 degrees.
Oh, wow.
And at the end of the marathon, it was 31. So.
Okay. And so what I'm seeing here is that you've done a lot of marathons in different states. Do you have the number of states that you've already ran?
Ironically enough, it's not as high as you would think, because I keep on repeating. I keep repeating. So, when you're talking about goals and kind of aspirations, my original kind of goal was I want to do all 50 states by age 50. Okay. So it would have been challenging, but it would have been possible if I hadn't repeated states.
That's true.
Keep in mind, I started running in 2020, basically. 2019 is when I started running. My first marathon was at end of December of 2020. Yeah. So doing one in 2020, one in 2021, 5 in 2022, and then 10 in 2023. Yeah. You do the math, you got to at least do maybe about 10 a year, which is possible. Yeah. But, I've done Houston twice, Austin twice, Honolulu 3 times. Hawaii, so it's basically 4 in one state. Yeah. So I've done a lot of repeat, and then Iceland, so out of the country. So right now I'm at 22 marathons from that point. Yeah. But I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it'd be very challenging to do all 50 states by 50. Yeah. But I do have in my mind, God willing, that my health stay great. Yeah. And that's why I believe recovery is great too, because even though I run a lot, I also recover a lot too. Yeah. But now my new goal is I want to do 50 marathons by 50, and not necessarily right when I turn 50, but before I'm 51. So that's kind of my mentality. And this year I've got a pretty good lineup, and you were talking about as far as finding races. Yeah. It's funny because one of my old employees knew, she used to be a runner years ago, and she's seen how much running has become part of my life. after not being with Best Buy anymore. So I've got on my wall, you won't be able to really tell, but the calendar right there.
Yeah, I can see it.
It's a runner's calendar. And what's really cool about it, I've never seen it before. She ordered it for me, and I can look at it, and it shows like any big, huge marathon on the calendar.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So, I mean, Austin was on there. Houston was on there. You know, some of the smaller marathons aren't on there, but like I can look on here and I can see that there's one in Vermont this coming Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Ironically enough, the ones I've done are ones I already had planned that are on the calendar. But, you know, this month, since I didn't have any marathons this month, I missed this month again. Yeah. But May, for some strange reason, is a hard month to capture.
That's weird.
Yeah, but I have looked at it and used that as a tool. So
that is awesome. You definitely, I would definitely like to, text me that calendar,
sure will.
because that would help out a lot. That would definitely help a lot out, even with me. I kind of made mine more of a hybrid now, because I've done some marathons. So I started, and I don't think I told you exactly how my challenge was working. I started doing this when I was doing half marathons only. So I said, you know what? Let's do a half marathon in each state. But then I went to run in New York and Chicago, and then I ran the marathons. So I said, you know what? I can't count New York and Chicago because they're fulls and I'm doing halves. And then someone said, well, make your own rules. It doesn't have to be exactly halves. And so now I'm doing kind of like the hybrid halves or fulls.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it is hard. It is very hard to find races when you're just going on. You would think because we have the power of the internet, everything's going to pop up. Well, no, not always. So that calendar would be very nice to kind of keep an eye.
I'll get you that information.
Yeah, if you don't mind. That's very, very awesome, man. But man, how many marathons in total have you ran? You said 30, right?
22 so far.
22. Okay.
Yeah.
22.
Yeah, 1 in 2020, 1 in 2021, 5 in 2022, 10 in 2023, and 5 so far this year.
So 10 in 2023 and 5 in 2024, which we are in May?
Yes.
So you're literally have one per month. And you mentioned something very important, given the fact that you're running so many marathons. How does your recovery look like?
Yeah. So, and I feel like probably in the last year, different muscles are being worked differently. Okay. So strengthening's been different, but there's lots of good things I do for recovery. It sounds cheesy and I feel like a rookie for saying this, but resistance bands, I had never used one until about like 5 or 6 months ago.
Oh, wow.
So that's been helpful. The friend that inspired me to run marathons a couple of years ago, she bought me some of the leg compression kind of massage things.
Oh, yeah.
So that's helped a lot. And so I've got that pair, and then I bought another pair. Okay. And then the other thing that's one of those aha moments that's kind of funny that I never used before was foam rollers.
Wow.
And so I've gotten good on that. I've kind of gotten away from that for the last couple of weeks just because of travel and everything.
Yeah.
But I find that works well. I'll occasionally go do cryotherapy. Cryotherapy's been huge. I feel like $1 million after that. So I do that. And then, of course, going to places like Stretch Zone, Stretch Lab every so often. Yeah. That's helped. I did recently buy not an expensive one, just like $100 one, like ice bath.
Oh, yeah.
So that helps. But the one I have, you put ice in it. But what I found is even just filling it up just with a water hose, the temperature is usually about 70, 71 degrees.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like it's cold enough. But when you look at what your body temperature is, going from that to getting in the water, it helps big time. So I found that some of those things are what truly, truly, truly helps me recover and, more stretching. Because I used to just get out there and not stretch at all and just run. And, that's where some of the injuries happen. Yeah. You just, and I don't want to take up too much time, but you talked about injuries. January of 2023, right after I PR'd in Houston, The one thing I didn't mention is I did a half marathon a week later, which would have been fine, but I didn't take in consideration this one has a lot of hills. Yeah. So during that time, I did injure my hip flexor.
Oh, wow.
And so I was getting a lot of self-care and getting that taken care of. And I was like, oh man, I was worried about Boston. Yeah. But I was able to do a lot of stretching and get that work on, and then great. And then after that, I didn't have any injuries forever. You talked about injuries. The irony is so the shoes I wear, I'm very loyal to them since they're an Austin-based company. Mm-hmm. So this sounds silly, but considering how many marathons, I've noticed some shoes fit a little bit tighter. So I was like, okay, maybe my feet are getting flatter and stretching out. It's like, I don't know. That's what it felt like. So, so one of the pairs of shoes I normally wear, I went half a size bigger. Okay. Well, in February of this year, I did a relay race in San Antonio. Yeah. And these shoes were a lot looser than what I was used to. And there's a lot of winding in the trail and some upward hill and a lot of wind, and it was hot. Yeah. And I just felt heavy and slow during that time. And it was only 7 miles. It wasn't like a marathon. Yeah. And then 2 days later, all of a sudden I'm running. I'm like, oh, what is that? I was like, what the heck? I felt this pain. Yeah. And then it kept on getting worse. Yeah. Well, this was right prior to Austin Marathon. Okay. And I was like, oh. And I knew I was going to be pacing run the Alamo again this year. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I got to make an audible. I'm going to have to skip Austin Marathon so to make sure I'm ready for run the Alamo. Yeah. And so right after that, I went on vacation, and I was just hurting so bad. I was like, man, I got to do something about this, because it's like right when I'm getting back from vacation, it's less than a week till run the Alamo, and I'm in pain. Wow. So I ended up going to a chiropractor, and the chiropractor was like, that's great. That's good. And I'm thinking, okay, when a chiropractor says that, it's probably not great. Well, he noticed that my left hip was a little bit out of it. And so right when he did the adjustment, he was talking about the glute. Yeah. I did that, and then I went and just had myself checked out, and they gave me a steroid shot. Mm-hmm. And then I just did a lot of stretching. That was Wednesday and Thursday. Sunday, I was going to be pacing run the Alamo at a 4-hour pace, which was fine. And I was really nervous I wasn't going to finish it. The owner of the company calls me Saturday night of the pace company and says, hey, Paul, it's like, how you doing? I was like, I'm good. I can tell you're up to something. He's like, hey, one of our 3:45 pacers dropped out. Can you pace 3:45? I'm like, his name was Paul also. Yeah. And I was like, Paul, I already told you I was injured and I can't commit to anything, but I'll do. I said, I'll give you what I can give you. I said, but I'll just be listening to my body. I said, my goal is to finish and at least finish 4 hours, but you're committing me to 3:45. I won't promise, but I'll do my best. He goes, oh, you'll do it. You'll do it. So, so between the steroid shot and, going to the chiropractor and getting adjusted, I did it. And, wow. So I finished up 3:44:59. Wow. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, you know what? I still got a medal and a shirt for Austin. Yeah. And I was like, I can't hang this on my wall. It's like, I didn't do it. Yeah. So I had a good friend that he was training for his first marathon. Okay. And he was doing the Nashville Rock and Roll Marathon. Oh, yeah. And very hilly. Hey, yes. He goes, hey, Paul, will you come do a long run with me? Will you come do a 20-mile run with me? I'm like, yes. Yes, I will. It's like, this will help him, but also I'll at least run a virtual. Yeah, you'll get your extra miles and get it done. Yeah. Yeah. Not the same, because Austin is, like, in my opinion, I would still say, if not the hardest, the second hardest marathon I've ever done. Oh, wow. Wow. So with that, I went ahead and ran 20 miles, which actually he ran another 1.5 miles. then I just finished it up. So I did my virtual, and then had Boston. So and then after Boston this year, I ran London 6 days later.
Yeah, and I did see that as well. And what was your time at Boston?
So, common theme of this whole podcast is peer pressure.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So one of my friends that I hadn't seen in a little while, the one that inspired me, I got to see her for a little bit there. But so my goal was 4 hours. Because I was like, okay, this is the first time I've done 2 weeks apart, 3 weeks apart, a month apart, but never 6 days apart. So 4 hours. I'll do 4 hours in Boston, 4 hours in London. Yeah. And so I wanted to be able to try to at least say hello to my friend while she was running. She's a different corral. Yeah. Next thing you know, I was supposed to run 4 hours. I ended up running 3:29 in Boston. Recovery felt great. I listened to my body, except for one of my other buddies, like 2 days after he did the same thing I did. He ran Boston and did London. He's done over 100 marathons. He's amazing. And he's turning 60 this year. So, we get to London and he was going to skip a day. I was like, nope, I'm not skipping a day running. I want to continue the trend, 5K, even if it's a little slower. Yeah. So I did 5K. And the next day, said, we'll do a 5K. We do a 10K. And I'm like, dude, we're like running another marathon in a few days. Wow. So London comes around, and I'm feeling actually fantastic. I was like, wow. I was like, I'm just going to do 4 hours. Well, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to listen to my body. Yeah. That morning, it was a little chilly, but it was like ideal running weather, like ideal.
Yeah. I heard so that was running. Real good weather.
Yes, it was like beforehand in the waiting around in the corral. Yeah, it was cold because it was windy, so I was shivering. But once I started running, it was great. Well, started running it. Next thing you know, I was like, man, I feel really good. And staying hydrated, keeping the electrolytes coming, salt sticks, the tablets, keeping everything going. Next thing you know, I was like, holy cow, I'm looking pretty good. And I ended up finishing that one at 3 hours, 20 minutes and 7 seconds.
Wow. So the 4 hour thing just went out the window.
It went out the window.
So this, if you can remind me, London was like in April, right?
April 21st.
So just because I have a feeling that you're going to say yes, from April till now, have you ran another marathon?
Unfortunately,
oh my God! What?
There's been catching up with family and everything. Had one weekend out at the lake wake surfing. Yeah, and then this past weekend was beach to bay in Corpus.
Oh yes, I saw that.
So you real quick, you mentioned about heat acclimation. So the last week I deliberately ran later and later in the day to be ready for Corpus for Beach Bay, because my leg was the last one, and so it's 5 miles, and it's at the heat of the day and just all on concrete. So so I deliberately ran in the heat of the day, and it did help. I thought I was going to run slower than I ran last year at Beach Bay because I had the same leg, and I ended up running last year I ran a 6:58 pace for that leg, and this year I ran a 6:47 pace, so shaved off about a minute and a half. Wow. So I was happy because it's like I wasn't expecting that. And then so then this weekend is family weekend, go out and wake surf. So May, unfortunately, there's nothing on the books, but June 7th I'll be volunteering at Volcanoes National Park in Hawaii. Nice. And before I go,
there's going to be a marathon.
So June 1st, I'll be pacing for On Pace and Poconos, Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice. It's crazy, man. I love your story. Now I understand why my friend Mary recommended me to you, because I am amazed at what you've been able to do, man. It's crazy, man. It's awesome. Some people might find it crazy, but you know what? You can only understand your own crazy, right? So
yes, exactly.
That's how it should work, man. But definitely, don't want to take too much of your time, man. We do have a part of this podcast where it's a very tradition already. Our episode 6 guest, which was man, now you made me lose my our last episode, we had a question from our guest, and at this time we're going to go ahead and give them a chance to ask it, and then you'll have a chance to go ahead and answer it. Okay.
If there was one piece of advice you could give to a new runner, what would it be?
Yeah. So when you think about it, the one piece of advice I can give to a new runner is just proper hydration, nutrition. With that, I can speak from personal experience. Ended up in the hospital. Hydrate. So I'm an ambassador for salt sticks, and actually I was a believer in that beforehand. One really cool thing is, like, I've been using salt sticks since after I went to the hospital. I keep some on me at all times. And running so many marathons, you see people that it's their first time to run a marathon, or they didn't know what to expect. And I'll be running a marathon, and I'll be running right beside somebody leaning over, grabbing their side. You see the salt dripping down their face. And so I have extra salt sticks in my pocket, so I'll just hand it to them. And it's kind of funny. I've made new friends that way too. There's one of my buddies, Johnny, in Chicago. I met him in Alaska. By giving some salt sticks and then chit-chatting with him at the end after the marathon. We've been good friends since then. He's actually popped into Austin a few times, and San Antonio, and ran with him a couple of times, and so we've connected here and there. But I found out that's been very beneficial. One of my friends, she ran the Alamo this past March, and she knew I had, like, this last year, since now I'm an ambassador, instead of having a little pouch of salt sticks, I had do I have it laying around here? No, I don't. A plastic bottle, and the shorts I wear have good zipper pockets. So the whole time I'm running here,
oh my God.
But I went through pacing. I went through a whole bottle of salt sticks.
So you're the salt stick dealer, basically.
Yes.
Wow.
And that friend of mine's like, hey, she was further behind, but we kind of crossed paths. She goes, hey, just put some on the rock over there. And she found them and took them.
Wow.
But
where were you when I needed some salt sticks in Chicago? Because that was funny that you mentioned something that's very true. You're a first time marathon runner, and you don't think about these things. I ran Chicago for the first time, and that's the one thing that I needed. I did not know. I did not know that I needed more salt, I guess, in my system. I cramped so bad, and that's when I learned that I would carry some salt. Like the ones that I carry are not a salt stick. It's more like a little cup, and it has salt. And I literally, what I do is like if you're taking a tequila shot, you lick your hand and you put it on the hand, and then and lick it from your hand. But where were you when I needed a salt stick, man? Jesus.
Now, was that last year or the year before?
No, it was it was 2021 probably.
Okay. If it would have been last year, I would say you could blame me, because last year, ironically enough, what's very funny is for Chicago. So in 2022, I was still getting in the groove of marathons. And I wasn't sure my aspirations as far as I wanted to do. So I saw that I could apply for Chicago. And I was like, I'll apply tomorrow. Well, I was a rookie. I was a big rookie then, and didn't realize that was the cutoff day. So I missed it. So then the next day, I applied for the lottery. And then I was telling all my buddies, I was doing my social media posts. I'm like, hey, lottery's open in Chicago. If you haven't applied, apply. And the irony is I had like 4 or 5 friends that saw my post. They got in, and I didn't.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, oh, they felt bad for me. But I'm like, don't worry. I said, don't worry. Chicago's, I'll get in the next year. That's what I told him. And
well, you could definitely get in with your time now at this point, right?
Yeah. Yep. So after June, I've got Berlin in September. And
I'm going to be in Berlin.
All right. I'll see you there. Awesome. I'll see you there.
I'll definitely leave some salt sticks, please.
Yes, I will. I'll bring a bunch. Well, I'm supposed to get my welcome kit, which is a whole bunch of them. So I'll definitely have them. So I'll be there in September, and then I'll be in Chicago in October.
So for what it looks like, you will be doing the 6-star major as well.
Yes, that's my other goal now. Last year I'd only done Boston. This year it'll be Boston, London, Berlin, and Chicago. So it'll just be Tokyo. And New York lab.
Oh wow, yeah. So
hopefully next year.
I have New York. I have Boston. I have New York. I have Chicago. Berlin will be my third one. So I'm halfway there.
Awesome.
I hopefully I'll be able to get the other ones. I'm probably going to do the charity side for the most of them, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's still, like I always say, it's still a good thing. It's still helping somebody out at the same time, helping myself, right? Getting that star. So, also just Paul, again, don't want to take too much of your time.
No,
let's go ahead. The last thing we need to do here is now part of the tradition is the question to our next episode, which would be episode 8. I don't say who it is because that's the whole point. Let's keep it a little bit of a mystery, I guess. So do you have a question for our next guest?
Yep, sure do. So I thought of a lot about that earlier. So when I think about that, I think about my story. So it kind of ties it into the question. Okay. And what inspires you to run? What inspired you to run? What made you decide that this was going to be a life choice for you to carry on, whether it be a daily, weekly, monthly tradition? What inspires you to run?
That's awesome. That's a great question. Go ahead and answer it too. What inspired you to run? Which we already kind of know. You already said it, but let's hear it again, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I'll give the short version versus the long story I just gave. It'll be the shortened version.
The clip notes.
Clip notes, exactly. So yeah, just once again, what inspired me was back in 2019, just seeing my parents' health dwindle down and really motivated me to take better care of myself. So that's what inspired me on the running aspect. And then what inspired me on marathons was my friend that challenged me that said, hey, you can run Boston. And, my intention was I wanted to do 1 marathon. Then I decided 2. And then she inspired me. And then she won't take the credit for it. And I'm like, yes, it's all you. You did it. And so the first part was my parents. The second part was her inspiring me to push myself to new limits. Yeah. And I found that, for me, it's more mental than physical. Physical is great, but the difference I feel after running, it's to me, people that don't run, how I explain it. Like I tell my sister-in-law, cause she doesn't run. So she's almost thinks it's almost like an illness for me that I have to run every day. And I relate it to her as like brushing your teeth, How do you feel if you don't brush your teeth? You feel all icky and everything. Well, that's how I feel when I don't run. I feel like I haven't brushed my teeth. It's like, so so that's the way I say it. But, those are things that inspired me to run. And, what I found is in February, like I said, when I had my glute injury, I went through some serious depression and, I was down mentally and physically. And I was just like, oh man, and those what ifs is what if I don't get to run again? There's a lot of that goes on. Yeah. So, I'm happy to be back to full blast again.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And whoever your friend is, we also want to thank her because man, who would have thought that by inspiring you to run a marathon, you would qualify and then you would have this great journey, man. You have an amazing journey, one that I've never heard. Most people, and to be honest, like real talk, like myself, I put myself in there because I started my running journey because I was overweight. I was non-athletic. I love baseball, but I sucked at playing baseball. So obviously that didn't work for me when I was younger. And then I picked up running thanks to my fiance. And ever since I've ran my first race, I feel much better. Like I wanted to, do something about it, So imagine if your friend had never inspired you to, or got that little itch in your head saying you can run Boston. If that person never said that to you, what would have been a Paul? What
Right.
You probably would have still been running just 5Ks, and
Yes,
maybe that would have been it. You never know, So
yeah.
thanks to the peer pressure, which is the theme of this podcast, I think I'm going to call it peer pressure podcast.
Yeah. Peer pressure, Paul.
Peer pressure, Paul. There
Pressure
you
Paul
go.
podcast.
There you go. There you go. But I think a lot of positives came out of it. You're a very dedicated runner. You are a very avid runner. You are an inspiration. Not should. You are an inspiration, because who can honestly say that they've run 10 marathons in 1 year? It's not a lot of people. But I'm glad you're able to do it. I'm glad you have that positivity, man. You can see it in your posts, in your smile, in everything that you've talked about. You can see how much you love it. And you know what? Kudos to you. Continue doing it. If this works for you, great. Don't stop. And man, I can't wait to see what you got. And now that you are here in this podcast, I'm sure that by next year, or by the end of the year, we will have you back, because I want to hear, how all those, marathons went that you have scheduled. So definitely, Paul, you're a guest of honor here. You can come whenever you want, and tell us about your crazy adventures for sure.
Definitely. One thing I wanted to say too is, and I know we went long-winded here.
No, you're good. You're good.
So one thing that you said that resonated with me, and thankfully enough, camera doesn't capture it, because when you asked me, my eyes just instantly started watering a little bit. And question you just asked is, you said, where would you have been if that friend had not inspired you to Boston qualify?
Yeah.
That just instantly made my eyes start watering a little bit, because I think about where I was then and where I am now.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a completely different person. And from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint, I'm way stronger. And, at that point, I've been able to bring pacing into my life and help encourage and inspire others. And
that's awesome.
And her inspiring me has helped me inspire others. But, I'm very grateful to her. I won't mention her name. If she sees this podcast later, she'll know who she is. No names needed.
Awesome. Awesome. No, we hope she sees it, and I'm expecting a message on social media when we post the clips or something like that. We definitely need to find this person, because we need to give her flowers. But let's leave it this way, because it's gonna be cool to see if she ever does message. I hope she does, because she definitely deserves it. And I think in every person's running journey, somebody inspired somebody to change something. I know my friend Hayden, he talked about, and on episode 6, he talked about him being overweight, being 230 pounds, and feeling, at his all-time low. And running inspired him. A running group inspired him to do these things, and now he's an amazing runner. I love these stories, because there's always someone inspiring someone else, and I think that's what I want to do with the podcast. That's what I want to do in my social media. And by the looks of it, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to inspire and pay it forward. And that's exactly what we should do, So again, Paul, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Before I let you go, I know you mentioned some of them, but what are the next races from here till the end of the year? What do you got?
Yeah. So far, 3 so far.
Okay.
3 on the books. So far. So June 1st, I've got Poconos, Pennsylvania, that I'll be pacing the 4-hour group.
Okay.
I've got Berlin.
Yes.
And then I've got Chicago.
Okay.
Possibly on the horizon. While I'm in Big Island, there is at night at midnight, 50K.
Oh, nice.
So I have my eyes set on that.
Yeah.
Also, depending on timing, I have my eyes set on Kauai again, and my eyes set on Honolulu again.
Okay.
And I did sign. Oh, I forgot I signed up for that. I did sign up again for the Air Force Marathon in Ohio.
Okay.
The caveat to that is it is a week before Berlin.
Oh, wow, man. Well,
But
please don't get hurt. I really want to see you over there in Berlin.
You will.
It'd be nice to catch up with you in person. I'm pretty sure before that we will. I go to Austin a lot, so definitely. But man, one more thing before we leave. Give us your social media handle where can somebody find you? If it's only on Instagram, go ahead. Give us whatever.
Sure, definitely. So, and y'all might not want to follow me because you'll get tired of my daily running photos.
Oh no, we won't. Trust me, we won't.
So, my Instagram handle is Smile While You Run. So, not YOU, but you. So, Smile While You Run. I was going to do Smile While I Run, but somebody has that, but I couldn't find them. So,
oh wow.
So Smile While You Run on Instagram, and then on Facebook. That handle was like when I first moved to Austin. So I think it's just Austin Bound. Austin Bound is what it is, but look up Paul Loyd, LLOID, and Austin, Texas, and that might be the easiest. But good way to find me there. I'm posting daily, and it's funny because sometimes I'll post daily, and I'm thinking, man, people are gonna start deleting me. They're gonna get tired of seeing the same old. And every time I get that mindset of, I need to quit posting, somebody will say, hey, thanks for the motivation. So I'm like, okay, if I influence one person,
exactly,
it's better to influence one person than zero.
That's exactly my motto. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I go through those emotions also every day. I'm thinking, man, I'm probably boring everybody, but you know what? It's you get that just one person that says, hey, thank you for posting. Or sometimes I do not post and they're like, oh, you didn't post today. Did you not run? Did you? I'm like, no, yes, I did. I giving y'all some time to rest, but Paul, again, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. We will definitely have to do this again, maybe sometime at the end of the year to see where you stand, because as of now, there's 3 marathons.
Yes.
But if I have to make a wager, I will say about maybe 6 or 7 by the end of the year. Or
6 or 7
or more, I would say. So we'll definitely keep that. We'll save that clip there of me saying 7 and see if I was right, man. But again, thank you very much, Paul. And good luck with your races, and I'll see you hopefully in Berlin, man.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Rob. That was a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure of mine, man. Have a good one.